Hey everyone, we're going to take a quick break and talk about our sponsors for the month, AMP Agency. AMP is a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in tour, rental, and destination marketing.
We would not have sponsors on the show if we could not vouch for them ourselves. AMP Agency does a bunch of stuff for Destiny Water Adventures personally. I 100% vouch for this guy. I've handed them over to other companies in the past before they officially became a sponsor, and they have had nothing but great things to say. If you guys are doing your own marketing and doing a piss poor job of it, do yourselves a favor. Hand yourselves over to AMP Agency, specifically Steve Edwards, their CEO, will call you personally and have a great conversation with you about what you guys need to do for your marketing.
Listen, guys, they do pretty much everything in digital marketing. Website development, maintenance, Google AdWords, PPC, graphic design, social media management, SEO, and a myriad of other things. When you choose a marketing company, it's so important to choose a company that knows your industry. And AMP Agency knows activity marketing, especially water sports and tours. They got a promo going for Awkward Watersport Guy listeners for their managed websites. Use promo code Awkward Podcast when you go to amp.agency. Again, that's amp.agency, promo code Awkward Podcast. You get 3 months free and get started with AMP Agency. All right, guys, let's get back to the show.
Welcome back to the Awkward Watersports Guys, episode fucking 120. 120 logged episodes of this amazing thing we call the Awkward Watersports Guys. How you doing, Greg?
Doing great. I went to the water park today. One of our Trip Shock partners asked our family to be models for their photo shoot. So,
hey, can I see what kind of shorts you wore?
No.
You're wearing them, aren't you?
Which ones?
The ones you wore to
Cousin Eddie's?
Are you wearing the Cousin Eddie's?
I'm wearing the Cousin Eddie's.
Were you wearing a polo collared shirt with them?
No, I was just wearing a regular shirt.
It's a weird look.
Yeah, it was a weird look.
Not that any of us on this show look even remotely normal or just like middle-aged weird guys in water sports. Guys, today we're joined by Ben. Ben, is this your second appearance on the show or third?
I think it's my second. I did the Hydro Flight episode with you guys and way back when, so congrats on 120.
Our second or third episode. He was our first guest.
Yeah, Ben. Yeah, so we are joined today, and he's been probably mentioned a ton of times on the show. My good buddy, my business partner, and good friend Ben. Ben Merrell, Hydro Flight champion, serial entrepreneur. He's like North Florida legend a little bit around these parts. So we're happy to have you on, bro. How you doing, man?
Great. Always happy to hang out with you guys.
Like literally too. Like Ben's actually in his office today. He's got his painting of Dubai behind him. He's like in the office.
Yeah. Before we begin, there's two things I want to ask Ben. First off, Ben was in a movie, like a featured film with Robert De Niro, and I just want you to share, that experience because, I actually got to see Ben do one of his Hydro Flight shows a month or so ago, and it was really amazing. I mean, and Ben was like, "That's not even the most I can do because your hose was shortened." But yeah, it was really exciting. Hose, okay,
shortened hose.
All right. Well,
too easy.
But it was amazing. I mean, I'll tell you, like, if you have an opportunity to ever go to one of Ben's shows, he posts them on his Facebook page, do it, because my kids, like, they still talk about how exciting it was. But you got a really awesome opportunity to be a stunt double in a movie, and the movie just recently came out. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So I actually trained a lady in Mobile, and the film was being filmed in Mobile. And so when the director, whoever had the idea to have a comedy scene with the Hydro Flight, they asked around. They got a hold of this lady because it is a pretty small group that does it. It's pretty niche, and they needed a male stunt double. And she's like, "Well, you've got to call Ben." So I was just lucky that they met somebody that I had trained and kind of set up with her on board. So I got a call, and they told me over the phone the shtick was, the main character, the comedian Sebastian Maniscalco, was going to fall into the water a couple of times, and he was going to come out, and his shorts were going to be down. He's going to lose his shorts, and so he doesn't realize it, and his family's watching, and And that's like the comedy scene. He ends up on the windshield of the yacht. So I actually had a little family meeting. I got 2 boys, and I talked to my wife, and I said, hey, this is what they want me to do. And we wanted to make sure that kids were okay with it and everything. And they laughed when I told them what it was going to be, and they told me to go for it. So, yeah, it was like 2 years ago I filmed it, almost. Not quite 2 years ago. And I kind of forgot about the little details. And then a group of us went to go see it. And my wife was just next to me, and like, there's the scene where, I dive in the water. I'm just the double, but, he comes out, but it's me, and his pants are around his ankles. And, man, my butt was on the big screen for a solid minute. And I just sat there low in my seat. Yeah. But it was an amazing experience, truly.
Go see the movies and see his ass. What's the movie called?
Yeah, it was about my father.
About my father, about Ben's ass. That's the title for it.
About Ben's ass.
That's 100%
about
my
Ben's
butt.
ass. Are you tired of spending countless hours managing your water sport and boat rental reservations manually? Is your current system outdated or doesn't provide the necessary features that your business requires? Hi, I'm Greg Fisher, the CEO of WaveRes, an online reservation software built by operators for operators. With our system, you can offer 24/7 online booking to your customers, allowing them to book and pay for their rentals at their convenience. You can also send SMS notifications to your customers, keeping them updated on their reservation status and any changes that may occur. Custom options and dynamic pricing enable you to offer tailored packages to your customers, helping you stand out from your competitor. Plus, our system integrates with companies like Werewolf Digital Waivers and TripShock, streamlining your operations and ensuring a seamless booking experience for your customers. Our software is the best choice for water sport and boat tour operators, as it is designed to cater specifically to your needs. So why waste any more time on manual reservation management? Try WaveRes today and take your business to the next level. For a limited time, mention this ad and receive $100 credit when you sign up. Check out waveres.com for more info or to schedule a free demo. Now let's get back to the show.
So I want it's semi-water sports related. It's completely has nothing to do with the show. And I'm going to lead Ben in properly. Because you guys are like, man, why is Ben on here? And we're going to get into the thing. So, normally it's like, how did your weekend go? We do that. So I've been holding back the story from you, Greg. And I wanted to tell it to you because you're like, oh, how'd your weekend go? And okay, so ask me, like, oh, how'd your weekend go, Kevin?
How'd your weekend go, Kevin?
It was quite interesting. Funny that you ask. So I go to my wife. So I've been in the process of writing my book. And so I've been stuck in the house and just not leaving, right? I just 5-6 hours a day just writing. And so she dragged me out of the house to go to the beach. I mean, quite potentially my favorite place to be, in the Florida sun on the beach. It's not a secret. A lot of water sport guys, there's very few of us that truly let's go on a fucking boat this weekend or go sit in the sand. I know both you guys are like, fuck that. And I'm the same way. So anyway, my middle child, she wants to October's working for us and my boy's at daycare. So my middle one's just kind of bored, right? So go to the beach or whatever. And so she comes and she's like, Daddy, I lost my pool noodle, or Mommy, I lost my pool noodle, whatever it was. And I want these people down the beach have it and they want to talk to you. So Tammy goes down there and I'm we have this tent, this shade tent. I'm laying behind the tent. And so they come walking back down. No pool noodle. And I'm like, fucking come on. Are we really going to do this? Somebody really being a dick about a pool noodle. So, I'm I asked my wife, I'm like, who is it? And she's like, the guy down there in the red sunglasses. The whole time I was there, I was just like, fuck that guy. He was so annoying. I could hear his mouth the entire time, and I could tell he'd been drinking. So I'm like, great. He's got the red Oakleys on and his fucking fitted backwards hat, and his stupid fucking tribal sleeve tattoo. And I'm like, perfect, I already know. So I walk down there and I just walk up and it's him, his wife, his mom, maybe his cousin, fucking fat guy, and his maybe 5-year-old daughter. So I'm like, give me my kid's pool noodle. You know what I mean? Because Tammy said they kind of so they said to her, they go, well, it floated down here and it's ours now. I'm my daughter's looking all sad and shit. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. I go fucking stomping down there and you can tell, they didn't see me sitting there. Now they're like, oh shit, so I come down. I'm like, give me my kid's pool noodle. And the guy's like, no. I'm like, I was like, really, dude? I was like, it's not even a full-size pool noodle. It's not like the 5-foot one. It's like the 2-foot one. It's like this big. And I'm like, man.
It was yours too, right? Your
correct.
pool
And it floated down to them. And they're like pulling some like finder's keeper shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he was drunk. So it's sitting on the ground. And of course, I'm like, okay, fuck you, dude. And I grab it. And he puts his foot down on it. And I'm like, really? I was like, is this what we're going to do, man? I was like, do you really want to get the shit beat out of you in front of your entire family on the beach, presumably on vacation, over a fucking $1.29 pool noodle, dude? And fucking, he doesn't say anything. And I go to walk away, dude, and he like splashes water on me, right? And I'm like, so now I turn around and I'm fucking pissed. I was like, get out of your chair, you stupid fuck. I was like, I'm going to give you a nice tour of our fucking hospitals. And then his mom gets up and like gets in between us. And I was like, get the fuck up. Get up, you motherfucker. And he's drinking. And he's got to be drinking. I'm assuming because he's sitting in like one of these lowrider chairs. Like if I just kicked him right in his fucking head, like I would have scrambled his fucking egg, you know? And so I don't because his kid's sitting there, but I'm like hot, you know? I want to. And so long story short, I go to walk away and he goes, you're white trash. I go, I'm white trash. You tried to steal $1 pool noodle from an 8-year-old, man. You're pulling some finder's keeper shit on my kid. It's like, you know, and I looked at his daughter. I was like, you know what? Your dad's a punk bitch. And then I looked at him and his mom is in between us. So he's like kind of like hiding between his mom and he's not saying anything, you know, like, other than the white trash comment. And fucking, and he's like, you know, I was like, yeah, you're a punk bitch. You know what I mean? If not, you get out of your chair. I just called you a punk bitch in front of your whole family. And now you're not even going to get up and get knocked the fuck out like you should. And so as I was like walking away and he's like, I could see your ass crack. And I was like, why are you looking at my ass, man? And I was like, this is like, only I would get involved in this weird ass situation on the fucking beach, you know? So that was that. I would have taken it. You felt like, Ben, like in that situation, like violence is semi-warranted, right?
I mean, for the principal, not for the pool noodle, but for the principal.
Not
yes.
for the pool noodle.
That's a tough situation. I mean, I you know, depending on it's $1.29 pool noodle, I might have just, you know, depending on where it's escalating, because you can't reason with drunk people, you know, so.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
With violence.
Yes.
when you're sober. But I'll tell you this. I sat down and my daughter, she just looked at me and she goes, thank you, Daddy.
That's important. Like, she knows.
That's right. And meanwhile, that guy's daughter probably had no idea what was happening. Like when she's older one day, she'll be like, there's this fat tattooed man who came down and just straight up stole a pool noodle from my dad and called him a punk bitch. It's my pool noodle, punk bitch. I've straight up deboed him in front of his whole family. But I didn't. It was my pool noodle. I didn't debo him. He was trying to debo me.
People are assholes. That is just unbelievable.
That's I love crazy. It, dude. All right. Anyway, all right. I just want to get out that silly story on the podcast. As soon as I got done, I was like, this will make for a great content piece, you know? All right. So, like, we actually have a point to today's episode, believe it or not, and we're going to talk about, you know, I love to talk about additions to businesses, how we can make revenue and make money. So thank you for sitting through 15 minutes of a bunch of bullshit about Ben's ass and my bully behavior. Topic today is a lot of us are in different other businesses besides water sports. It's mainly seasonal. So, you know, there's a lot of guys that have side hustles, and I've seen it sort of become problematic when it's very disconnected from your main business. And so I wanted to bring Ben on because Ben's has had some successful things that made sense that have bolted on to his current infrastructure and his businesses. And then he's had some like weird shit that's like been just like completely out of left field that seem interesting or ways to make money. And I know, and Greg too. Greg's had some different hustles and side hustles that have done really well. So, so Ben, let's talk a little bit about some of the businesses that just give us some of the things that you've done that have been like successful, not successful.
Ben hasn't been on the show in a while. Ben, can you just talk about the primary, Powerup Watersports.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so I can lead in. So prior to Powerup Watersports, there was like a lot of different businesses I tried. But in 2012, we brought the flyboard, that hydroflight device we were talking about, and we got on a boat and rented it off Crab Island. And I just saw the demand for boats and jet skis. So 2013 and on, we just added boats, jet skis, and have grown to about 20 and 20. 20 boats, 20 skis at our current location. And that's our main source. We actually don't even rent the board anymore with the location that we're in. It's a little crazy, but yeah, what we started with evolved into what we are now. So the core of Powerup would be, boat and ski rentals.
Hey guys, we're going to take a quick break to talk about the Watersports Forum, which is now being rebranded as The Port at Arival.
That's right, Kevin. We're going to be doing our third annual water sport and boat tour operator forum, now called The Port, from October 9th to the 12th. So let's break it down real fast. The first day, October 9th, is the full day event where we'll bring in speakers, host panels, do roundtable sessions. If you went to the year previous, you kind of understand the format. The rest of the week, we'll be partnering with the Arival Conference to bring you supplemental programming in our special VIP room called Captain's Cove.
Listen, I want you guys to hear me loud and clear. If you guys are listening to this show, if you guys have ever come to one of our conferences before and you thought that was great, this is going to be jam-packed with value. Now, I want to tell you one last thing. Somebody, a very smart investor, once told me that you bet on the jockey, not on the pony. So I'm asking you guys to bet on this conference, on Greg and myself, on Doug and Bruce at Arival, and know that the amount of value that you are going to extract from both of these conferences are going to be an incredible return on that investment.
So let's talk pricing. A one-day ticket for the forum will run $199. This also includes lunch and our after-hours event. If you decide to stay for the Arival conference, you can purchase a combo ticket, which gives you a 15% discount on both events. Because the pricing goes up each month leading up to the event, and this commercial doesn't change, please head to the watersportpodcast.com and click on 2023 conference. Again, watersportpodcast.com, click on the 2023 conference link in the menu, and then you can view the current pricing for the combo package and the Arival ticket. You'll also find info on lodging and programming. This year we're going to be having at the Rosen Shingle Creek, which is an awesome resort.
Special guest speakers. We're going to have a lineup that is going to knock your socks off. We're going to be covering everything from assets, finance, marketing, operations. Like, this is the one and done mastermind. And I don't know when we're going to be able to do something this comprehensive again. And I guarantee you, if we do, we'll be bringing the same value in a smaller group for 10 times the amount of money, because it really is that valuable.
Be sure to get your tickets early because we only have 125 seats. Again, watersportpodcast.com, go to 2023 conference, and from there you can purchase your tickets, you can purchase your combo tickets, you can purchase your lodging. Everything you need to know about the conference is on that page. If you have any questions, just reach out to Kevin or myself, go to our Facebook group, hit us up. We'd be happy to answer anything you need, and we'll see you there. Let's get back to the show.
So as we talked about earlier, you do a flyboard show at Baytown, a tourist spot, and I mean, tell us a little bit about that. What does that look like? What do you do exactly at that show?
And I would say that's like in a way that's a bolt on. You know, it's
100%.
not, we don't sell a product, but so I'll go to Baytown is a resort area, and they have shopping and restaurants, and they have this cool little pond with bridges over it, and so it's something that I can drop my ski in, and every Thursday night at 6:30 and 8:30 I go out and I just perform. I go out there and flip and fly around and high five the kids, and it's been going on. This is my 10th year, and people love it, so they keep having me back. And I'll go ahead.
And you go and you do this in other places too, like you travel internationally to do shows
all over. Yeah.
Okay.
So I actually just got back from Tampa this past weekend. There's these housing developments called Metro Lagoons, and they build these housing developments in these massive pools. So I just opened the one in Tampa in a 15-acre pool. But yeah, same deal. I go in and I fly, and we're just a source of entertainment when they're trying to do an event or something like that.
So tell me, use a ski that is that ski insured under your policy, like with your rentals and all that?
So we used to, when we were renting it out, it was truly a bolt-on because we rented it out, and then I would just take my ski, and under that same whole umbrella policy that the boats were on and everything, I would go, and I could go and do shows all over. And some places ask for it and some places don't, but we had it. Since we don't rent it out anymore, I've had to go and add just an entertainment like a show policy. So right. we don't have the insurance to rent it out or anything, but it covers me flying.
Yeah, so the reason why I asked that, and then it's like, I don't have to lead you down the road on like, so Amber, your wife, like, she'll go in and do Facebook stuff for your business, but then she also promotes the shows and stuff on Facebook too. And then your ski for your hydroflight, I'm assuming, in winter goes to your shop with your other jet skis. And if you need to refurbish it or something, oil changes, like it gets put in the rotation with the rest of your rental skis, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. So that is a great example of, yes, perfect example of like a bolt-on business, something that is in your current infrastructure that's aside from your water sports company, that's something completely of its own entity and pays you money and has bottom line and small marketing needs, not a ton of overhead. It's a great business. Like if that was your only thing and that's the only thing that you did, it would have its own bottom line and tax return and all this stuff. But if it needs an oil change, presumably you have somebody that's on your crew that goes and takes care of that machine. Yeah, we run everything. We run payroll through it. We had to get, like I said, a separate policy because it's without running it. But yeah, it's an add-on, and we're able to benefit, having Powerup as a jet ski business. So how about things that you tried to get into aside, like just basically side hustles that weren't connected to? Let's hear about some of those. I know there's been a couple. I feel like just in the last 5-6 years I've known you, there's been a couple, right? Yeah, we'll go to my least favorite. Pressure washing. I have eaten it on pressure washing. Usually I find somebody interested in doing it, but this is something I've really thought about. Actually, recently today, somebody was talking to me and they're like, "Do you own more than one business?" And I'm like, "I do." And so we talked about them, but a bolt-on business that goes hand in hand, something that's just an extension of what we're doing, is much easier. And I feel like it's really hard to start a business. It's a lot to run a business, but once you're up and running and have some momentum and some success and some traction, you're rolling. Now you just have to manage it, maintain it. You can grow it. There's a lot to it, I know. But man, just going, hey, I'm going to start something. And then you start something out of your realm. So I've had success in water sports. And so here I go, I buy a pressure washing trailer and we put it together. And, I've bought two pressure washing trailers in the past 4 years. And I think we've done maybe 15 jobs. So, the losses on that are, we're taking a chance. We're trying to find something that would go in the off season. But at the end of the day, with everything that we're doing, I don't have the energy or the time or the desire to push pressure washing. So that's the last one. I think
you answered my question. Is like why didn't it work? I mean, you've been very successful. I mean, and there is some similarities. I mean, you have I would imagine other related businesses to water sports would need a pressure washing service, right? Or they could for their docks and marinas. Is it just you lost the ambition to actually grow the business or build it, or was there not enough margin in it?
So something unique with both of those is both times I had a different partner, and it was kind of like I was financing it. I was helping from the admin side, but I wasn't out there growing the business. And I didn't have any intention to either. And both these people had other jobs as well, and they were hoping to create something for themselves. And I think it's when you have something sustaining you and you don't have to survive to eat. And when that's one thing that's a motivation that pushes us something like I'm going this route. I have to develop this. So if you have another job and you're trying to start something up, that makes it hard. That's something I've seen. And two, it's just hard to start a business. It's hard to get something up and off the ground that has no momentum or has no customers. And so both times that's faltered. And I'm not upset. I'm friends with both of these people still. It's just, it's hard to do it. It's probably because I'm not involved and I have no interest and I have no expertise behind it. I can't put more into it. And so for that reason, I know it's the last time I'll buy a pressure washing trailer for sure.
I think that where the challenge becomes, and being a silent investor in a small business, is that for the juice to be worth the squeeze, you have to have significant equity. And then B, when you have a piece of a significant equity and you're a non-operational part of that business, it's like especially in those first couple of years, small businesses need everybody that they can. Everybody, there is just not a second of the day that does not require some type of love or care or somebody being involved. So when you have a 25, 35, 40, or even 50% equity in something that you're not actively involved in, like that growth is like, it is fractionalized by the lack of involvement of the silent partner. But as the silent partner, you're like, all right, so I have a full-time thing. Like now we're talking about like rich dad, poor dad, where you're like, all right, I've built a business and now I need to invest. Well, I think what becomes challenging is if that business is not scalable, and a pressure washing business for all intent and purposes is not going to be scalable, especially if you have one of the partners that are out there doing it. It's not like you're investing in something that's like, all right, hey, I'm going to invest in this widget that you made. And now we have manufacturing, we have distribution. This product is scalable based on a host of different factors, such as, direct to consumer, business to business, if you're going to get into retail. And I'm just using a product, right? So if somebody came to me and said, hey, I want $100,000 for a pressure washing business versus I want $100,000 because I've got this idea that I think I can sell 10,000 units of, that you can be a silent partner in. Whereas a pressure washing business, something service related, it requires so much more. And then you need 10 of them, right? You need 10 pressure washing businesses across the Gulf Coast or the state of Florida, or whatever it's going to be, for it to be even remotely sexy. So I think that's the big thing. If I'm looking at something that would be an investment, nobody's come to me for that, luckily. But if they did, that would be my question, is like, well, how can this grow without my involvement? Yeah. And I think that becomes a challenge.
You hit it on the head. It's tough to for it to be worth it. In both of these situations, I would have been fine, making my money back in a little bit. I told both of them eventually, you're not going to want me involved. And so I didn't look at it as a long term, like I was going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars. I would have loved for them to have, I have my own thing and I love it. And my life is what I want my life to be. And I do want that for other people. So I have a relationship with both of those people. And if that had taken off and they had built it to something and I made a little bit of money, and I would have happily been bought out. And I was upfront about that. So I knew long term this wasn't going to be like the next thing that, doubles what I make or anything. But I also have to be smart. I can't make investments where I stand to lose money and then there's a very low reward at the end too. It's like, so best case scenario, I get my money back in a little bit. Worst case scenario, I'm out tens of thousands of dollars. And so I have shifted my stance on some of those things because of that.
Was there something else? I feel like I know there's been a couple where you were on the verge of doing. Was there any other? Was there anything else?
Ben, you started the Jet Blade. Was that you that helped created that product?
No. Okay. So I was flying the Hydroflight device, and we wanted a wireless remote. So Flyboard is what I started on, and then I got in contact with this guy who made the Jet Blade, just a different board, and so we actually developed a wireless remote for that. Went to China, did product design, and just real tough with such a small niche market, though. If you're going to go, like you said, Kevin, if you're going to make 10,000 or more realistically, 100,000 or 1,000,000 of something, the cost to make it gets much cheaper. So when we were making 100 remotes, they were costing us over $1,000 to make. And this is just, so when you get into that, then you have a really high price point. And then like anything with products, you have faulty ones, you have things that, where you have to replace things and warranties. And I wanted one, and I was passionate about the sport, but that's probably the most money I ever lost on an investment.
Well, but I mean, it kind of made sense, because if the product did work out the way you wanted to, you could sell it, right? I mean, It's not your fault that the hydroflight industry, from a commercial standpoint, kind of fell apart a little bit. It came. I would imagine it's now more of a hobby than it is actually like commercially available. A lot of markets don't rent hydroflight anymore, but it made sense. Like I would have, if I was in your shoes, I would have at the time when hydroflight was kind of near its peak, that might have been a great investment. It could have worked out really well if things went mainstream. It's a great bolt-on business, because you could have effectively been the spokesperson for that product. I have, being at Trip Shock, I have the luxury of seeing all of these successful businesses. I get to know the owners. I get to know how they've made it. It's like I can make my own documentary of like what's that show, How It's Built, just from hearing all the stories and seeing it. But at one point I'm like, okay, I might be able to use this knowledge of marketing and tours, and also having the distribution we had, to create businesses. And you hear me on the show talk about how I built a business in Orange Beach, renting jet skis, doing tours. That was very successful. And I hacked it, because on day one, I already had a distribution channel bringing me bookings. It wasn't I had to build up everything. But there was one instance where I did, bolt on to Trip Shock, and it wasn't like the success that I hoped for. And it was a similar situation to Ben's power washing. But again, being in Trip Shock, I have this big distribution outlet. A good friend of mine, Noah Wells, he has a magic show, and he's a really good magician, good business person. He moved his show to Destin. We partnered together, and we went half and half on it. And I can bring the people, he can do the show. It was like a great partnership. But in the end, after 2 years of doing it,
he made you selling... disappear.
In a way, yeah. So at the end of the day, it's like it's a lifestyle business. It's not scalable. We had hopes and dreams that maybe we can build the show up to where we can have a large theater and scale it up. But at the end, Destin's not a live show destination, and we knew that going into it. But if there's only one live show, then you have all the. But so at the end of the day, we decided that it was best that he just took on the show. Like, I just gave my ownership to him. But what was great about the whole thing, it actually turned out very, very good for both of us, because he was able to do his own thing, have ownership of it, make all the profit. He was very successful, made some good moves, moving his location. But Trip Shock was still able to sell tickets for his show since the beginning. We're still selling tickets for his show, so we are still generating from that relationship. I'm still getting my cut, and so it's.
But wait, hold on. Magic show, okay, but I feel like we're missing the biggest one, which it would be WaveRes.
Oh yeah,
WaveRes is like a great vertical integration, a great welded-on product. Like, completely made sense for you to build that software and then resell it.
And I'll tell you, I feel like I really missed the entry point with WaveRes. Like, I bricked hard on it, because before Fair Harbor and Peak came into the market, the current reservation systems that were available were awful. So we started developing WaveRes in 2015. This was like years before people started adopting it in our area, and we didn't take any funding. We decided to do it on our own, and it took us. We bootstrapped it, and it took us so long. This is a good conversation, because if we would have raised money, we would be the Fair Harbor of today, because we already had the clientele from the Fair Harbor partnership. We were heavy in the industry that I think drives a lot of the client base. Which is
I think that's a bold statement.
It was
$250 million. You think you feel like you're worth? That's what they exited for too, right? That's what Fair Harbor exited to Booking.com was $250 million.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, if we would have put money and we put the effort behind it, what I'm saying is the entry we had we were at the right time. We just bricked. We put too much effort into Trip Shock, where at the time the reservation system was the ticket. Now we're kind of playing catch up now, and we're doing all right with that. But again, like, that was the perfect bolt-on business at the time. Our mindset was there. We didn't raise money when we should have, and we missed that main entry point. But again, like, timing is sometimes everything. And when you're looking at adding on to your business, timing is gonna play a huge role into it. Timing, and then, like, what are you getting out of it? Like, if this is a lifestyle business, is it scalable? Is it worth the time I'm gonna put into it? Which I think Ben found. Like, I found with the magic show, I wasn't going to get the being an owner and putting the additional time. I wasn't going to get the return from that, just like Ben wasn't going to get it with power washing.
Yeah. So when looking at when we were looking at doing a partnership with Trolley Pub with Kai Capro's Tour Scale. He's got a couple different products umbrellaed under that company. And I was looking at the Trolley Pub, and from an infrastructural standpoint, it looked like it would have just kind of been a goose egg here. But so that's my problem. So our Ben and I also have a with Ilya, Eli, depending on who you're talking to that day. Ilya's he's been on the show, and he's my partner. He's been talked about. He's doing the where you change your name, like where you're like a Russian immigrant or any kind of immigrant, and then they like, you have some crazy hard name, and then you change it to something that's more like palpable. So it's Ilya. He changed it to Eli, and that's fine. But now I call him like Ilya, I call him like Ela, like it's really difficult because they're so close. Anyway, Ilya and I and Ben have a Jeep rental business that we thought would be, and it's like, I think and it's not even been like struggle bus. Like it was minutely profitable first year, second year has been a lot better. But I think the closer to the industry that you get involved in, like when you start to look at that delta, especially in something service related, like the Jeeps and car rental thing was so like, for us, it's been we've been able to get hands off on the boat rentals and the jet ski rentals. Not to say that it's like, oh, you can be completely detached from these businesses, because they're laborious or are heavy from an operational standpoint, but it just hands off enough where we felt that like, okay, we could get into the vehicle space, but it was just detached enough that it wasn't like truly like, oh, we can just throw this into the fleet. The softwares were different. Like operational is like the same, but to a degree, but then you're dealing with a whole bunch of other things. You have to, if you have something go down, if you're not going out, it's not 2 miles away or 3 miles away. It could be 15 miles away. So it was just close enough that it seemed like it was doable, but far away enough that it had its own unique challenges. If given the opportunity to do it again, I would definitely do it again. But, it also runs into the same hazard as we talked about before, scalability. So I think like as a lesson to anyone thinking about getting into side hustles or different businesses, I think that becomes the biggest challenge, because then you're just a guy that's like, you've got 6 small businesses, right? And you're just sort of like running around trying to chase down your profit and not burn yourself out or stress yourself out, where Greg's products were, not to say that, but because he doesn't physically, you know what I mean? It's not like Greg's got to be like, oh man, I got to go wrench on WaveRes. WaveRes is down, He's like, he's got developers, he's got software people, he's got managers that can, sort of do this. So then it's just a manager of getting more partners and doing X, Y, and Z. So like, I think, and I see it like with a friend of ours, like Mike. I think here's a really great example, right? So Mike lives in a completely different town. He's got 2 completely different businesses, like wildly separate. You got water sports here. He's got a concrete business in in Louisiana. And I see him struggling back and forth because, you know, he does kind of suffer for like, you know, one business is busy one time a year, the other business is busy the other time a year. But when he takes his hands off one, then he goes to focus on the other one, then the other one is still sitting there waiting for the love and care that it's going to be. So I say, and he does a good job at both, you know, like he does a really good job toggling at both. And he's that type of entrepreneur that's like bright, tiny, shiny toy, you know what I mean? He's like, oh man, I got it. You know, as we all are, we get bored. We want to start getting into other things, get our hands dirty again.
I'll tell you, I'm a lot more happy. And at one point I had 6, 7 companies, like in 2019, 2018. And I'm down to 3 or 4 now. I mean, we sold our real estate, so I don't consider that really a thing right now. We might get back into it, but I'm much happier because, you know, these smaller lifestyle businesses, I had a golf cart rental business, jet ski, the entertainment business, and then I was trying to develop these destination websites. I own PensacolaBeach.com and a couple other ones. And I was like drowning. I was literally drowning. I was providing no value in any business because I was so enthralled with every single one of them, spread so thin. Now, if I had the capital, I could hire general managers. I could delegate and all that, but there just wasn't the money to do that. And I think that's another thing that people struggle when they do bolt-on businesses is that you're still in charge. You're still making the decisions. You don't have the capital yet to hire under you. So, you know, when you do bolt-on business, you got to think about, okay, what's my time? What's the return? You know, will I be able to make enough to hire under me that someone could take it over, make a lot of decisions, compensate them well? It's tough. Like, you really have to think things through and not run after the shiny objects, like you said, because that's what I did. I was running after every shiny object I can get my hands on, and luckily, I walked away with some of those with a lucrative exit. But most people don't have that opportunity. I got lucky because of my relationships with TripShock. I was able to find buyers for my jet ski business, golf cart rental, things like that. So
you mentioned real estate, and look at Ben. Yeah, that's Ben's new hustle.
Man, I had to come back because I think when like I said, I tried to start a bunch of businesses before water sports, you know, got traction, and so I got to a point where I had the means to say yes to things. And I was like, that's a good investment opportunity. That's a good investment opportunity. And so I've done the same thing, and I'm a year or two behind you because I'm starting to exit some of those things. And I've talked with partners, I've talked with my wife, and I'm like, I want to focus on 3 things. Now, if I have a partnership and they're running it, they're the majority, it's something I invested in, and that's going to keep running, no problem. But I have to zero in my focus because it's not everything can be going well financially, but it's robbing something else when it requires that much time, and it's hard to change directions. So I did get my real estate license this past year. So, but Powerup's in a position where we have a manager, and of course I definitely I get it going when the season starts. I check in high season. I'm available, but the day-to-day stuff is pretty much ran. And then I have a development that we're working on. We're putting a little tiki bar down. It's on the water. I sublet, actually. I work with Mike that Kevin mentioned, and he's got his rental there. And we're bringing a tour boat, a catamaran. So that Power Up, and then the real estate, because I was still looking for something that I could take year round. And we haven't talked.
You still are. I don't. If I come to you with the right thing, it would only be a product. It would have to be a product that, you know, where we could distribute it. Either bought product from China. I like the idea, like the widget, man. Like that's the one thing I can't get it off my brain. So I'm like in the same boat as both you guys. So I got my Galveston location with Sean and Destiny, and then we have our Jeep rental business. And Steve and I and Ilya. So that's always the trick, right? It's the managing of partners, because that's the only thing you can do to not stretch your thin is to give away equity. And then it's always that sort of give and take. Like Ilya's been running the operations on the Jeep side, and Ben's got his things going. And I have my things going. I try to be like, hey, do you need me? And then he calls me in the middle of the afternoon, like, hey, can you come right now and do a rental? I'm like, No, I can't do that.
So
tell me if you need anything else.
I got a question. You mentioned equity. So to me, I think equity in a lot of cases is overrated because a lot of these bolt-on businesses we talk about, the multiple on it is not that sexy. Like I had, Alex and I both owned, our jet ski business in Orange Beach. After the sale went through, we made 6 figures each after tax and everything. All went, looking at the time we put into it for those 3 years. It's like, should I have done it? Trip Shock did well because we sold it as a product. We didn't have a jet ski product. So we created a product in a market. But after all said and done, we sold it. We had a good multiple on it. I don't know. Like, I don't know if the equity was sexy enough. Like, I would prefer if I partner with someone, say, hey, depending on what type of business it is, if it's like a lifestyle business, like a water sport company, I might say, hey, don't give me any equity. Just give me a percentage of revenues, like 2% of revenues or 3% of revenues plus a salary, and call it a day. Because you just never know. I mean, a lot of water sport companies, I've been in the middle of a lot of deals, and you'd be surprised how many times water sport companies are sold for pretty much the equipment. Maybe a little bit more for the website. You don't see we talk about these multiples unless you have like a long-term lease or a really great location or something. No one gives a shit about the equipment. I mean it's the location, it's the brand, it's the legacy. That's the stuff that really matters. Mostly the location, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I think the big takeaway here is that, like, because it's so seasonal, I think it's really easy to get distracted. And look, I've seen people do pretty well with a bunch of different stuff, and then not do so well. I know like Sherry from Sea Chase, she's like a serial entrepreneur. She got a bunch of little things. Like, you got to really ask yourself if the thing that you're going to get into can it be passive? Can it truly be passive? Like, if you're going to get into real estate or investing in the stock market or something like this,
passive
or
doesn't
money market
exist.
Accounts.
No, I don't believe in passive.
It really doesn't, man.
Business.
If it's going to be successful, I don't think it does. Like, even if like you're going to be you can't be a passive. I mean, you can be. You can have somebody manage your money in the stock market, but I think the more successful investor in the stock market is going to be somebody that's got their ear to the ground, that's looking at PE ratios, that's listening to podcasts, that's reading Wall Street Journal, is keeping their eye to things that have 20x upside, that's going to be able to get in early. And the only way you're going to do that is unless you are deep in the analyticals of companies and the analyticals of markets, and actually can read graphs and really truly understand. You're not just popping 50, 60 grand in a ETF or something like that, and you're going to get 7% back.
Well, so I want to go around the horn. So Ben, I'm going to ask Kevin the same question. Ben, what's the best business decision that you've made?
I mean,
and then I'm going to ask you guys the worst decision.
I won't even say Powerup was like, we don't even do what we started with. So we've had a lot of luck there. So as far as bolt-on business, if we stay in that, the best decision we've made so far is to start another rental with a partner in a completely separate location. So down in Central Florida, we've started Lake June Pontoons with a good friend of mine. So I don't run it. I'm 7.5 hours away. But she had, in the past 2 years, she has built that thing. She's branded it. She's like the only boat rental there. There's 27 lakes in the area, and that's in Lake Placid, Florida. And watching that grow and watching that become, I don't want to call it this because it's its own thing, but watching it go through the journey of what Powerup went through, from 4 boats to 8 boats. There's 9 boats. We just added some skis. And so to watch it evolve, and I know what that can become, I'm so happy for her. I'm so happy for us. I'm so happy that one day I called her and said, hey, let me throw one of these boats that I have that I'm going to sell. Let me throw that down there and see what happens. And she really did take off with it. So that's my number one.
So we'll go to the list before we go to Kevin. What's the worst? And it could be an investment. It can be business. I mean, it can be maybe a career move, whatever. Like, what is the worst decision that you think that you've made that you just like always think about?
I tried to day trade, and I watched, I don't know, 10 hours worth of YouTube videos. And man, I remember I got up one time, Hertz had crashed, and I bought Hertz, I think it was Hertz, real low, and it like flipped, and in like 30 minutes, I made like $3,800. And then a month later, I lost like 70,000. So
I got a similar one. Yeah, you pretty much took my worst one. Kevin, what about you? What's your best?
I mean, it's hard, man. I don't want to sound like sort of ass kissy here, but I mean, probably my friendship with Ben. I mean, it's pretty well documented that I don't know where Destiny Water Adventures would be today if Ben and his partner Patrick didn't like sell us their business in Fort Walton. I mean, it saved me. So that is probably, and that I can't even take credit for it because he reached out from the very first day in friendship and was like, "Hey man, I'm Ben Merrell." Like,
how many times on the show have we said your network is your net worth and relationships are everything? I mean, this is just testament 100%. To why the relationship.
Like it reminds me of that scene from Happy Gilmore where he, like where he's like calls him up and Steve Buscemi and he's just like, "Man, I'm sorry," or whatever, and then he crosses his name off the kill list. He's like, "I'm glad I called that guy." Like, man, like, I mean, but yeah, for sure, man. Like I'm a big softie, so my relationships, the equity in the relationships that I have been incredibly beneficial to me. I don't have that story. I don't have that like, and other than losing our location, but we seamlessly transitioned. Like so far, the small investments, like I'm very measured when I do things, So everything has been a challenge that I've done, like from even like the boat test thing, which is still like we're in the final stages of having that come to life. The Jeeps have been semi-challenging insofar as like, not seeing the runaway growth, but I don't think that's like, I think that's foolish to sort of to think that. This year has been a struggle insofar as of wanting to see growth and me fighting upstream against something that I can't control or market my way out of. So everything that I've done has been successful, but it has not been without the challenges and the reaching moments where I thought like, this is going to be it. I'm done. Like giving up day of play was a challenge, but we pivoted and it was successful. Losing our location was a challenge, but then buying Fort Walton Beach Watersports from Ben and Patrick and not knowing if it was going to be successful and taking that from an 8-boat location to a 28-boat location. The boat test thing was a challenge because we got failure to launch after 2 weeks of going live and having to go back to the drawing board. But none of it would be possible without the relationships, without the strategic partnerships that we created. The relationship I had with Ben. Ilya was just, he was a monster in bringing the boat test up to, and I won't even get into it, but there was a lot of new content that we had to write based around new regulations that like we didn't have any book sort of to go from that or any sort of framework. We had to create that. That was him, so it's just nothing has been easy, but luckily because of the relationships and because of the hard work and because of everything that we put ourselves into, everything that we do, everything that I do. And I never accept no. I never accept, right now we're facing it. It's this market's been difficult now. I'm like, no. So I don't know. I'm lucky, man.
So
I got a great team.
But there's gotta be one decision that you've made. Like I said, it could be investment, career that you're just like, damn, maybe I would have played that differently. No, there's gotta.
I got no. You're bad one.
There's gotta be something. Not one thing that you're like, oh man. Oh, then I'll you think about it. I'll tell you mine. And it's crypto. It's crypto and NFTs. I mean, it was a huge mistake. I got caught up in the excitement and the rush of the volatility, and it was definitely something that I learned a lot. But hell, I mean, I could have learned a lot just by watching it. I didn't have to experience it. But that was one thing. And if one day I wrote down all of my investments, all of my achievements, and anything that I can control directly, I've had success in. Maybe not overwhelming success, but I've had success in. The bolt-on businesses, all the Trip Shock, Wave Res, everything I've had success in. But investments and stocks and crypto have been an absolute disaster, because you got to think like the bigger companies pull the strings on the stock market. We, as retail investors, we don't necessarily have, the tools that they have, automated systems. Not going to get into all of that, but I made some mistakes. I got caught up in it, and it goes back to, Ben and I don't have control over these things. It can be addicting. It can be exciting. It's more of like a hobby. It's like gambling, really, when it comes down to it. And unless you're working with a professional or someone who's very knowledgeable that can help train you, like I'm staying away from them personally. Like I have my retirement and 401k managed by a financial person, but I am not going to go into the retail trading market, never at the degree that I did during the crypto boom. Like that was a huge mistake. I didn't know the industry. I just went hard, and I regret it. So it's a lesson for me. Like whatever the next thing is, whether it's it's something else other than crypto, another investment opportunity, I am going to be a lot more cautious. I learned my lesson, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't a bolt-on business. It was just careless gambling.
So look, look, man, I think to that point. So like, like I said, I've been in the process of writing this book, and I have one good line in it that I'm really happy with. And I said I learned this from my father, and that, and I'm going to have to try and draw from memory here, cause I can't remember the exact quote, but, that there's only negative equity in regret. So I have no regrets. Like I have made seemingly every mistake probably one person can make in life. My personal life, from being like a fall down drunk alcoholic, going to prison, to fucking up my having problems with my family, me and my wife having difficulties with sobriety and our personal relationship, because I'm an all or nothing guy and I throw myself into things pretty heavy. And what I've learned from all of these things in my life, like even the heart attack, like, could I go back and like, no, man, like it was probably one of the best things that happened to me, because it did allow me to get sober. And so, I mean, I'm the first person to say that, like, man, I make a ton of mistakes, but I don't regret any of them, because I can look back and say, like, look at my life right now. And like, my life is fucking awesome, man. Like my life is fucking amazing, dude. I've got 3 beautiful kids. I've got a beautiful wife. She's made so many amazing changes. And like, we live in this great place with this great community. It's like what I always wanted when I was living in Key West. When I pictured what my life would be, I thought it'd be a lot easier. I'm not going to lie, but it's like, I've got an amazing network of friends and entrepreneurs that I can call. Like, man, Greg, the 2 of you guys and Steve, I probably log fucking 20 hours a week on the phone. You know what I mean? Like, and those relationships and the time I get to spend with my family and all the things I've got to see and do throughout my life. Like I've been to, like, we have traveled so much. I've let my hands off my business. I've learned how to work on my business, not in my business. I've made so many great relationships and had so many great experiences. Like, and I have a business that probably does have a good multiplier attached to it. I've got a staff that I've watched grow from kids making 10, 12 bucks an hour to like moving on with their life and being mentors to them. And I
understand you don't have regret. I have regret, and I want my money back.
Why?
I want my.
Well,
yeah.
How much did
one way to get it back? Greg.
I want it back. Well, I haven't.
How much did you lose in NFTs?
I don't want to talk about it. It's ridiculous.
Not the gains, but the initial investment. It's not that much.
It's a lot.
Over 100?
Over 100.
Well, you're a degenerate fucking gambler, which I want to get to because we're going to leave and go to the casino right now.
Yeah. So let's wrap it up. This is a really good show. I really enjoy this conversation because I know everybody listening is like, I think being a water sport operator is like, we gamble, we take risk. I mean, that's kind of part of you ever see those memes where like they have I love your
sour grapes, by the way, at the end there. You're like, yeah, I get it. You don't have any regrets, Kevin, but I do.
No,
what, your big collection. Hold on. For a second, though, for the fucking record, when you initially bought in at 20 and you told me that Winklevoss had bought in and your shit was worth fucking 15x what you paid,
at one point,
I won't say the exact number.
At one
and
point.
I told you that night, Greg, sell. Like you are 15x you're buying on this. Sell. And what did you fucking say? What did you say? I'm going to wait for it to go to 1 million. How about 1 billion? Why don't you wait to get 15,000x off your fucking investment, you psycho? And Ben, I just want to ask you a question because you look like you were kind of wanting to chime in on that maybe that there was a regret or something you know about that I missed, like that I should be sad about. Because I want to have a loss, but I don't feel like I do. And if you know of one, like tell me now.
I looking at how you're viewing it and the story you shared, I get it. I get where you're coming from. A mistake's not a regret because it's led you to where you're at, and you have a different perspective. You've lived a different life. So no, I respect that.
I respect.
I do get depressed. I do. I'm not saying like it's all peaches and cream because I called you last week and I was like, man, I feel like I just lost a fire in my belly right now. I don't, but again, like I'm probably bipolar, but I feel like I got it back.
I mean, we could have gone in on a catamaran. I mean, there's maybe that. Maybe you'll hate that we didn't do that, but it opened up a deal for Mike.
He's
good today.
No, because if that thing were not in our hands, there would be sweat pouring from my head. You would be fine with it. But I would not be. I would be like, what the fuck is the fucking thing? You know what I mean? I'd be like, why isn't it making enough fucking money right this second? I'm the most impatient person on the planet. So right now, like, I hate that it's not in your hands right now, but I'm like, glad I didn't do that. Glad I didn't do that because I know me and I'd be losing my fucking mind. You're a much more cool operator than I am, but I would be calling Corinthian every day. Like you asked Steve about this boat test shit. Like, listen, when I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but they did not answer me on the membership thing. And long story short is I called every member of NASBLA, every member, and left a voicemail on every single one of their phones. And I was like, I don't know who I got to talk to answer me, to tell me how much membership's going to be. But I'm like, I'm going to drive to Kentucky and start knocking on doors and figure out who I need to write a check to. Cause I'm like, if it's this difficult for you guys to for me to give you a check, then like when I actually need you to do something for me that I'm being impatient about, I call those guys like weekly. I call everybody and I'm like, I'm a psycho, man. Like I am the squeaky wheel, dude. I am that entrepreneur. It
pays off though.
It does, but I don't want it to be the detriment because I was driving Steve crazy, and I don't want to drive you crazy. But I mean, yes, if the opportunity arises and it's in hand, and then like me, I'll probably be like 2 months before you get an answer from me because I'll be like, let me think about this for a while.
All right, guys.
Well, but once I do commit, I want to murder everyone. We're going to talk forever.
We're almost at the hour, but hey, if anyone wants to come and hang out with us and continue the conversation, then come down to Destin and come out to dinner with us. All right. Well, we appreciate y'all. Ben, thanks for coming back on the show. I recommend if you want to hear his first episode, just go to our website and search and type his name in, and you can find the first. That was a really good episode about the poops scooping business. We never got to that. We never got to that point. But anyways, we appreciate everyone tuning in, and as always, keep it awkward.